Thank you for that nice introduction, Bill. I want to thank all of you for being here today, too. Government and politics doesn't work without citizen involvement. And this is very encouraging to see this kind of a turnout in a campaign, in any campaign, but particularly a campaign for mayor. And so I just want to thank you for your time being here and your commitment to this. Welcome to this debate. Our format is simple. I'm going to I'll ask each candidate to give a minute or so opening remarks. And I'd also like to ask them to save some time so they can make some closing remarks. And in between, I'll ask some questions and we'll try to rotate the answers among the candidates. We'll try to be as informal as we can about this. Many of you know these gentlemen. And I want to give them time to at least fashion some kind of answer, mindful of the fact that we've only got an hour of time, so I might push you along a little bit. I want to congratulate the candidates too. You know, I admire those who offer themselves for public service. These guys are in the arena, and it's oftentimes not a pleasant or comfortable place to be, especially in a city hall anywhere in America today. So can I just have a round of applause for all four of these? Thank you all for putting your hats in the ring. Let me introduce our four candidates. City Councilman Joel Fritzler, former SIUC Chancellor Sam Goldman, City Councilman Stephen Haynes, and George Maroney, former administrator of Mayoral Hospital of Carbondale. We'll now go to our opening remarks. Mr. Fritzler, you have the floor.
I've always stated the primary purpose of government is to provide for the public's health and safety via police and fire protection, safe water, and sewer services. The city should also provide direction for a balanced growth of the community. Our central and western commercial areas especially need help as prospective SIU students and their parents get their first impression of Carbondale as they drive through these areas. To assist SIU in increasing their customer base as well as ours, we need to clean up our existing neighborhoods. Carbondale needs a mayor to bring people together, from scheduling 90 retail employees to organizing agency reps that serve 40,000 refugees to recruiting Main Street volunteers. I have the experience to unite people interested in making Carbondale a better place to live, work, and play. The reality of the recent past is that the city has spent millions, and Springfield is forcing us to pay millions in increased pensions while keeping a big chunk of our income tax dollars. Due to these actions, our reality for the near future is a very tight budget, but I'm prepared to hit the ground running as the next mayor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Goldman.
I want to thank the Chamber for sponsoring the meeting here, and it's a great pleasure to see you all here. I'd just like to make a comment that from the years 2008 to 2010, I provided leadership and administrative expertise to Southern Illinois University Carbondale as Chancellor at a very, very difficult time in the life of SIUC. We worked with some $230 million in budget, 8,000 employees, a student body over 19,000. We had relationships with overseas, with many countries, and with the federal government and other agencies. All of this was carried out under the eye of the public. And it is imperative that we understand that the things that a mayor does or will do are under the eyes of the public. And I have been through that, and I'm fully prepared to continue doing that. Over my 30 years here in Carbondale, I've served a number of diverse volunteer community services. Some of you may not know this, but I started out as president of Carbondale Junior Sports, and I moved my way up from there. I'm a volunteer chaplain at Mayoral Hospital and at the Illinois Youth Center, otherwise known as the Boot Camp. First chairman of the Carbondale Human Relations Commission, president of the Carbondale Convention Tourism Bureau. I've worked as a fundraiser with the Southern Illinois Hospice and with SERS, and I now serve as chair of the Southern Illinois Healthcare Foundation. It is my firm belief that no one can serve as mayor of Carbondale very effectively unless that individual has had intimate knowledge in working with many of the agencies that provide services within this community. I have worked over the past 30 years with a lot of agencies in Carbondale. I know who they are, I know what they do, and I think it's imperative that the mayor and these agencies work very closely together.
Mr. Haynes. Good afternoon, and thank you to the Chamber for having all of us here this afternoon. Several of my fellow candidates up here have talked about their positive leadership and their ability to get things done. I think we all have that on our plates. We all are residents of this community, and we all care deeply for Carbondale as a whole. I, however, have a little bit of extra stake because of being born and raised, and some may say that may be a bad thing. I don't think that is. Being born and raised here in Carbondale, I truly believe that this is my hometown and where I deserve to be at. That doesn't mean I deserve to be your next mayor, but it does mean I deserve to be in the race. And we are. We have been in a leadership responsible role for the past 8 years, sitting as a member of the City Council. We have served as past president and board member for both the boys and like Dr. Goldman said, for the junior sports programs, Carbondale United Way, and the Carbondale branch of the NAACP. We have been involved in various other organizations and interests also, whether it be raising my kids here in this town or providing leadership and responsible service. Thinking all those things involved, we feel the necessity to be your next mayor. Now, those of us in the business community, which we are part of also, would say that we don't have that background or experience. I beg to differ. I've been an integral part of management staff of the Curry Corporation for some 20 plus years, working my way up from a bagger to a cashier to the overnight stock person to the overnight cashier, then to the store manager. I've seen and done a little bit of everything, and that's why I think my background experience gives me that opportunity and that edge. And hopefully you'll give me that opportunity and that edge on April 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Maroney.
Well, I'd like to start out by asking a question. You're going to ask me a question. I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you are able to vote in the election that's coming up? You don't count. Well, I know you vote. That's better than most of the groups that we've quite frankly encountered. One of the problems with this community, and one of the problems obviously with the business community, is so many of the people who are involved in our community don't live in Carbondale. And I'd say today it was maybe 50-50, which is, that's a pretty good sign. I spent my professional life in Carbondale as the administrator of Memorial Hospital. And as the administrator of Memorial Hospital, you run a business, a real business. And it was a business that was one size in 1976. When you leave here today, you may drive by it, it's a different size. And along that way, I made a lot of mistakes, and I did some things right, and at the end, I think I did a fairly satisfactory job of running a very challenging business in this community. And those skills, whether they be financial, or people, or political, are all transferable to the office we're talking about today. I dealt with various politicians. I remember once having a meeting with Governor Ryan. We all remember Governor Ryan. He sought after the meeting to have me censured and made contact with the board of the hospital. I had referred to him in that meeting as a politician. He took affront at that. What I was thinking was something else, but I didn't want to say. And politician was the nicest thing I could have said. So it's very nice seeing you all here this afternoon, and very looking forward to taking the questions.
Well, we'll go right to those questions. The questions that I'm going to pose today were proposed by members of the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee. I've added a few wrinkles myself, but we'll try to focus primarily on economic and business issues, because that's what we're in the Chamber today. We'll start with you, Mr. Goldman. Economic development. What role does a mayor have in economic development? And specifically, what sorts of things would you do to foster growth in our community?
The mayor has a very critical role in economic development. The mayor sits right at a point where the mayor can be an enabler for just about everything. The mayor has to know the business community, the mayor has to know who's involved, but also the mayor has to know what the opportunities are. The mayor has to search out the opportunities out there that we can latch onto. The mayor has to know what the capabilities of the city are. A major capability that is here in Carbondale is the capability that you have with people with technical skills, people with know-how, and that's the way the world is going these days. And I would say that the mayor of Carbondale needs to have his finger on where that is. Furthermore, the mayor of Carbondale has to have influence in the community to make sure that the community supports business friendliness, that people know and care about customers, about consumers, and they know and care that Carbondale is a city that must thrive and live upon the business interests.
Mr. Haynes. For economic development to prosper in Carbondale and continue to do that, the mayor has to be at the forefront of what's going on. We do, however, have an economic development individual with the city of Carbondale, so I would say that the mayor needs to work hand in hand with that individual to be there, similar to what Dr. Goldman said, to be there every day, in and out, to work when visitors come to our town, to make a positive relationship with those visitors, to look for and to have conversation with council members and the other city officials so that we're all on the same page. The mayor is, some would say the mayor is just a figurehead of the city. I don't believe that's the prospect of what we want to see in our next individual in that office. He needs to be the individual who's going to be out here being the biggest cheerleader for Carbondale, the individual who's going to say that everything that we need to have to generate positive business growth within the Carbondale community, whether it be on a large scale or a one or two individual business development. So I think that as we look at which one of us up here would be involved with customer engagement and involvement in things of that nature, all those things are probably pretty close to where we all want to say and be at. Thank you.
Mr. Maroney?
Well, I think one of the first things is the mayor needs to be available. And as an older gentleman who's no longer employed, I have a certain flexibility in my life that makes it such that I am available. I'm now on a fixed income, my wife's. And, I think the person who's the mayor needs to be someone who can have contact with these people and not have the constraints, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, it's good to have a job, but have that type of flexibility. One of the things I think this community needs to look very hard at, and I know there's a plan down the road to redo the zoning in this community, I think that's important, but also this community has, over the years, I think, tried to achieve a regulatory climate that is prohibitive to development. And there needs to be a coming together of the people in the community who make things happen and the city bureaucrats to come up with what the proper rules are and then the enforcement of those rules so that we are on the same playing field with the Marions, Murfreesboros, and Herons in the Southern Illinois community. Because that's our competition for businesses. Some businesses we're never going to compete with. We don't have an interstate, but we do have an airport and a new transportation center. And that is going to be key to what this community can do down the road. And I think the mayor can be pivotal in determining on how we're going to set the tone with regard to tax incentive programs and what we're going to do to create the right business climate. Anybody who has ever run for any office in Carbondale in the recent past has always said we've got to have a more business-friendly climate. And quite frankly, after the election, it's always stayed the same. There has to be some change.